What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV and our coverage of HBO's House of the Dragon. So this is season 2, episode 5, Regent. 35,000-foot thoughts. As always, just start off real quick, almost rapid fire. I don't want to go first because I always talk first.
Go ahead.
I really liked it. Obviously, there wasn't like a big battle or anything, but I kind of really enjoyed just like sitting with the characters. A lot of good conversations. I would say I'm in the camp of like the Damon stuff is boring me. I don't love it.
Yep.
But I also think that like we've always in season 2, the end of last season, it felt like the Greens like next generation has always been a big part. You know, Aemond, Aegon feel and even Helaena have felt like they've fleshed out those characters more. Now I feel like Team Black's next gen, like Baela and Jace, got such a good episode. I loved their stuff so much. So and that conversation with Jace and Rhaenyra at the end was so good. It really felt like a mother and son, almost like friends talking for once. It was like such like their little smirks back and forth with each other was so good. I was so hyped, especially to end on that scene. So to end on such a like a hype scene like that, I was like, I fucking love this episode. So and I the rewatch, I loved it as well. Luke, what'd you think?
Yeah, it's really tough to follow up a top 5 like highest rated episode and such an action-packed dragon battle episode, but I was so pleased with this slow burn political just background plot mover. Right now on IMDb, it's actually the second lowest. It's just above Burning of the Mills. It's sitting at an 8.0. It'll probably come down a little bit more because usually it does. So it might end up being the lowest of the season. And I completely disagree with that opinion. I don't think it was that. I think it almost had the highest floor of quality of scenes, with the exception of all the Damon stuff. Like at the very least, I was glued to my screen just looking at just like these small council meetings and just enjoying whatever they're talking about. And obviously we're going to break all that down, but I really thought that this was a good episode for Team Black. Things are moving in the right direction. And there's a couple other things I'll just throw out there. The Harrenhal storyline sucks. Like it just really is just it's fine for what it is, but it just is taking up way too much time, and it just doesn't fit with the rest of the atmosphere of the show. And I'm not really here for it, and I'm sure we all agree on that. So my hot take from last episode seems to be now a cold take that I think the internet is even agreeing with. But the biggest shocker of the episode was Sunfire's dead. That like blew my mind. I didn't think there was a chance that the dragon died, but Aegon lived. So that's going to be fun to talk about and like the implications of that. But that also makes me want to change my answer to Kathleen, your question about who really won, Team Black or Team Green. Well, Team Green didn't overwhelmingly win the day like we originally thought, specifically because of what happened to Sunfire. So, but still, at the end of the day, Team Green is winning, but there was a lot of good that happened this episode that bodes well for the future of Team Black.
Question: do we know that Sunfire's dead? Is Rhaenyra the one who says that, or does anyone else confirm that?
Kristen
Cole got it from 2
Cole
sources, right?
Yeah, Kristen Cole says the phrase "Sunfire was long in the dying," so they kind of just left Rook's Rest
without Sunfire.
Yeah,
the way he says it, he has like, we left a meager garrison, and and Sunfire's kind of there. She's long in the dying, or he's long in the dying, is like the exact words that he uses. And then the Black Council mentions that Sunfire is dead. They're not counting her in the dragon calculus anymore, or him.
Okay, because I was gonna say if it was just Team Black that said that, then I'm like, maybe they have some misinformation. Can we really trust that? But okay.
And if it comes out that Kristen Cole was saying that with being in like an unreliable narrator, I kind of hate that, just from like it's going to be a shock value for one episode, when in hindsight, it's probably not going to be good on a rewatch. So I'm hoping that Sunfire is dead, and it makes sense. It's probably an easy way for HBO to cut a dragon. Like, how are you going to realistically mend back a broken wing like that and talk? I just think it works that Sunfire died, and it makes that battle in hindsight look even better too, because it did take out one of Team Green's biggest assets.
So my takes on the episode overall, I enjoyed it. I think I agree with Luke with that comment on the floor thing, where it felt every scene was good and you were locked in. People feel a type of way about the Harrenhal scenes. I think I'm feeling that type of way about the Vision stuff. It just feels a little repetitive in that they're saying the same things each time. But I like the riverlands exposition, exploring the relationships of the lords and like the Blackwoods and Bracken stuff. So I don't completely hate it, but yeah, the Vision stuff's getting a little old. So moving into just our very quick episode summary before we want to get into our like breaking down all the scenes. This episode summary is pretty quick, so it's just going to be Cole brings King's Landing a dead dragon when they want bread. The patriarchy dunks on Alicent and names Aemon One Eye the protector of the realm. Aegon wants his mummy. Damon bangs his mom accidentally. Baela proves she is blood and fire as she splashes cold water on Corlys' pity party. Jace takes a brief break from serving face to do his part in the arms race. And Lady Arryn graces us with her commanding presence, and Rhaenyra and Jace invent Ancestry.com.
I love the bits of Jace. It's like, bro, your brother just died. Why are you serving? His jawline is so strong.
He's got the look. Yeah, and we were talking about it in the last podcast, and we talked about it offline, Kathleen, with his stance too. The way he holds himself in all the scenes it's so like casually. So good.
It's so good.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so just a little recap. I'm sure people are sick of hearing this, but the way we break down the episodes is just by buckets. So we're going to take all the Team Green scenes, then we'll do the Damon stuff, and then we'll do Team Black. So we'll try to sandwich the icky parts that people don't want to really talk about or listen to in the middle, so you're forced to stay for the entire podcast. So Team Green, these opening groups of scenes are basically just them returning back from King's Landing. So we have this parade of Meleys's head. We have Aegon being carried to bed, and he's getting treated by the Maesters. So there's kind of these two long-ish scenes together. Some gross stuff, some unfortunate stuff, some maybe foreshadowing or world-building stuff. So I thought all this was good.
Kyle, dude, I think you've been playing the long game with Kristen Cole, where he was the internal fuck up so bad for Team Green that Team Black is kind of back in the race. So I think that's why you've been pulling for him, because he's totally just messed up bad this episode. But also, I was so in for his scenes that he gets on later with Alicent. I'll save that for now. But like him messing up to the point where Gwen's like, "Yo, bro, like this was it really a win for us?" And add in the fact that I'm still like allegedly believing that Sunfire's dead. So that kind of really plays well. And then everybody in King's Landing, all of the peasants, or just like the people living there, they have a horrible episode in terms of like what happens to them. And it starts here. And I like the little quotes we get from some of them. Like, it's just meat, or I thought dragons were gods. Like that really plays well into what's to come with how they're going to be basically another asset for Team Black after Miss Arya's plan starts like getting through King's Landing people.
What was your reaction really into Meleys's head on the cart? I know you're a big Meleys Red Queen girl.
So fucked up. She was my MVP last week. Yeah, I was really pleased with the like commoners being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you got this like it's got to be the stinkiest street of all time. You got the rat catchers dead. Meleys is being like drug around. Honestly, Meleys might smell a little good. That might smell like kind of like a pig.
Like low-key cooked. She's low-key cooked.
It's cooking. No, I was pleased and I was surprised by that. And I think them giving us bits of the common people of King's Landing all season is kind of starting to pay off, especially in the later scene when Miss Arya is like, you got like thousands upon thousands of people there that could be on your side. Like there's more than one way to win a war. So I enjoyed all of this stuff. I mean, fuck parading Meleys around. And I love, they're so dramatic. They're like, it's the dragon traitor Meleys. It's like, bro. It's
like I love the heralds. I think they're so funny. I wish that was my job for the show, was to be the herald. Like for whatever reason, I just really like them. I think they add a nice like medieval fantasy like setting piece to it really well. So I enjoy that. If they're looking for one for season 3, hire your boy. I'll totally do that. And
wait,
so
real quick, what is the name of our blacksmith? I never wrote it down.
This is Hugh Hammer.
Hugh Hammer, right? Okay. It really felt like his scenes were out of place, but now it's starting to come together. So I'm happy that we are getting to see their perspective, because I could not care less until this episode about them, but it makes total sense what they were trying to get for you.
Yeah, just some seed planting. So we'll kind of now move into this Aegon stuff. So we have Alicent and Aemon watching on the ramparts. They have kind of different reactions to what's happening. Aemon seems somewhat low-key satisfied, although it's always the same exact look on his face with those little curled corners of his mouth, which is just great. Shout out to you and Mitchell. And
Mhm.
man, Aegon is pieced up, baby. This is truly BBQ Aegon. We talked about it last episode of like how can he get hurt through the fire, but they even mentioned that the armor was Valyrian steel, but your skin is not Valyrian steel. So they gave us some pretty graphic shots here that weren't necessarily appealing. But
Disgusting, bro. And the worst one might have been the leg reset, where I just
yeah,
did not expect them to clock the leg
Yeah.
back into place. But that's Game of Thrones. They got to throw these crazy visceral scenes in there every once in a while, keep us on our toes.
he must have been just in so much consistent pain. I mean, imagine like that just on a bumpy, rocky road for days on end. I mean, he was pretty much passed out unconscious. But yeah, I think my favorite part of this scene is just the way Aemon walks in and just like posts up at the foot of the bed, the way he's just like lounging on it, and then just someone has to rule in his stead. It's just like Alicent's looking at him like, oh my god, he's a demon, he's a monster.
And she clocked on the bridge that he had the king's knife.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she's already thinking like, what the hell's going on here? Which then immediately leads to her confronting Kristen Cole.
Yeah.
What the hell happened out there, specifically with Aemon? So, and that's all this. I'm sure we're comfortable still going, unless you guys had more comments about the burning. And he did look charred. That was crazy when they pulled the chest plate off, and he looked like steak. Like it was disgusting. Stepping away back to Kristen Cole. I love the demeanor change of Kristen Cole so freaking much, man. This guy has been through it. The character development, I mean, I'll give it to you, Kyle. Like from episode 1 of season 1 to now, like the character development has been insane, and it's finally starting to be entertaining for at least me and Kathleen's side. I think,
yeah.
And I really like. Just like every time, like Alicent and Kristen Cole, whenever they're talking, there's just so much. I know we used this term last time, like subtext about really like what's happening here, who's got the loyalties between each other, what's really going on with Aemon. So it's just interesting to just finally hear these conversations up front.
I was shocked at the like lemon in the salt. I didn't know you could like margarita mix your sword like that. Yeah, that was interesting. That's a very unimportant detail, but I'm just curious if that's like a real thing from medieval times or like sword upkeep. That was just interesting to me. And then I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are when she says she kind of wants to know Aemon's part in this, and he claims that he doesn't know. We know that he kind of got knocked out when Vhagar and Meleys like initially, like when Vhagar hits the ground that first time. But I'm just curious of what your thoughts were on that, because it seemed like Alicent took it that he wasn't telling the full truth.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I believed it to be. But now that you're saying that Cole might have been knocked out, there's no way that like his soldiers on the way back weren't like, yo, Vhagar fucking like blew fire right in his face on purpose. You know what I mean?
I don't know if my take on that is, I don't know if like anyone there would really know the actual specifics of that, you know, where like Aemon like pretty much deliberately targeted Aegon in that way. I feel like they would just see the balls of fire and them engaged. So I'm taking this as Kristen Cole doesn't really know. I think that they left it ambiguous though for us to, I mean, maybe have this exact conversation of like, how much does he actually know? And is he maybe even afraid of Aemon at that point?
I think they all are.
That's fair.
Well, we do know that Cole was aware that Aemon was late. Essentially, like he was saying like, where are you, Aemon? Where are you? Like he sounded the horns to get his attention, and then like the whole plan changed when Aegon showed up. So I think he's kind of being ignorant on purpose, so he doesn't have to really, I don't know, play this political game that he's just kind of like a piece in it rather than making decisions. And he doesn't snitch on Aemon, where he had at least enough information to say something if he wanted to throw that shade onto him. But I don't know. I still think I don't think scared's the right word. I think that's his boy. And I think it's working out for him, because he had an opportunity to make a scene at the small council session, but he doesn't. And he's the one that helps back Aemon, and his voice was the most important in that room because he's the hand. So I didn't get like a strife between Aemon and Kristen Cole. That feels like that would be horrible for Team Green if that actually plays out in that way. So I'm not predicting it's going to go that way. I think it's more just Kristen wasn't going to snitch and start this whole inner war between the Hightower / Targaryens.
Yeah. But I think the next scene with Alicent and Kristen Cole, like at the end of this bucket, is even more important, because it was the first time I was like, he's not wrong when he was like, You should have seen it. It was
Yeah.
fucking insane. We've given the word of the dragons. A dragon rider should lead us. I think he is shook to his core.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, it's a mix of both. I do think he's like probably a little scared and a little afraid. And I do think Aemon's his boy. So he's like, I'm going with Aemon. Like, he's the strongest. He's got the best dragon. I think that's the best for the realm.
I don't think Aemon has a single ill will towards Cole. At least we haven't seen that
definitely
yet. Right?
Not. No.
I don't think so as well. And this scene, this Green Council scene is, I mean, you guys had varying predictions of when Aemon would end up on the throne, but you were both convinced that he would do so. While not technically on the throne, he's not the king right now. He is the Prince Regent and the Lord Protector of the realm, but that's as close as you can get without actually sitting your hiney in the chair. So I loved this Green Council scene. I thought it was great, especially the way they shot it. I thought it was such an interesting choice to have it like be Alicent having this like panic attack, and the sounds, the dialogue around her is kind of coming in and out, and you have to read the subtitles to really know what's happening. And I just thought all of that was just such an interesting portrayal of what was happening in the room.
Do you want me I can talk about this scene forever because when Aemon, after he gets, I'm jumping ahead. I'll just say the first couple of things. Like, I love that Orwell actually was like explicit about supporting Alicent, where I did not think that he was going to ever throw his hat on her side of things, but he's right about her having the experience. But it totally makes sense when Laris is put on the spot and says, we cannot raise a female up to be the queen after we just started this world war that's going to destroy everything. Like, that just makes no sense. They were making good points, like to the point where I don't think Alicent should have been understanding of it. And then also, if you layer in the fact that this is an exact parallel of what Rhaenyra was dealing with over in Dragonstone, where she is also being talked through and she doesn't really have a place to say like the final authority just because they're women. So it was really interesting that they decided to do these scenes. I think in the actual episode, they were pretty close to each other. So we got to see that parallel. So that was like kind of just good cinematography, the panic attack, like the sound, that all of it was great. And it just ends with Aemon being like, okay, I guess I'm it. And he just stands up, picks the ball up, and the sound was good when everything was silent until he slams that thing into place. And he's like, so where do we stand with the Riverlands? And he just starts going to work, dude. I loved seeing my boy get to that point because like you're saying, we kind of were predicting it was going to go this way. And he's got the mind that's going to make it the most scary if he actually does get the full kingship and sit on the throne. So this is where Game of Thrones excels, man. When we have these sides, these political figures rising up to this level of power and just he's born for the throne, man. At least born to fight for the throne. So that's going to be everything from this scene that's going to play out is just, I can't wait. I do have a question about one of his orders with the, I missed the reason why he wanted to lock all the citizens down into the city. Cause I know that plays out in an important way later. Did he give the explicit reason, or that was just trying to get this whole city under control while there's this new leadership change?
It was basically that they're understanding that the Smallfolk are borderline riotous about the oh my god, what's the word for it? Not the encampment, not the siege, the blockade. The Sneeze Takes blockade. So they're basically saying, and especially now they know about the kind of negative reaction to the dragon head. So it's basically trying to stem the flow of information almost, where these people leave King's Landing, then they meet other people, and then they say King's Landing sucks. Like, it's, they're not feeding us all that. And then that information spreads and it's like, okay, well, King Aegon can't take care of his citizens in his own city. So it's just, I think it's more of like controlling that flow of information.
That's fine. I just totally missed it, but that makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My thoughts, you guys said it perfectly, but I loved Laris's mic drop because as much as I was Team Alicent at this table, and she does have, the experience, he's 100% right, but even more so, I love that Laris is like, and I will not be the only one getting thrown under the bus. Kristen Cole, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Throw it to you, sir.
That was good. Deflect.
Yeah, exactly. I loved that.
Yeah, and Cole's just almost like sunken in his armor. He's just there, like kind of looking at the table, and is like, I don't even remember if he looks at anyone when he says it, but he just kind of almost like says it to the table, most of what he says. And then it has to be Aemon. So, and then I love that, like Luke said, where it's right to business. Even though it happened last episode, the contrast to Aegon is just immediately apparent. He is action oriented. Everyone has a task. People are willing to bring him things. They mentioned like we should contact Oscar Tully, like all this stuff. He accepts their their counsel in a certain way, and it's just really good. And then immediately ends it with, "Go to your tasks. We'll meet again at sun up." So
my two final comments for this scene, because God, it was so good, was just going back to what you were saying about Laris, giving him that credit, like he was just deflecting. He also has a nice background moment later in this episode when we go to the Damon stuff, where we find out that he smartly took all the gold out of Harrenhal. So even though like he it's his castle and his family's castle, there's no power. So that makes more sense. I kind of wish he said that in the first castle conversation. I think that was 2 episodes ago. Just because that's he did mention that he stole that he moved all the gold to King's Landing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
that's
Laris
just me
says
being
it.
dumb.
Laris actually says it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the episode before, not Sir Simon or whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's Laris, because they
Laris.
mentioned they're upset at him for losing Harrenhal, although Aemon is still upset at him in this moment because he says, "How can I trust you when you gave away, the jewel of the Riverlands?" But he mentioned, because he's trying to convince them that Harrenhal, they're trying to convince Aegon basically that Harrenhal is useless, where he says, "There's no gold there. I have the gold. It's a quagmire that'll just keep Damon's attention." Yeah.
Cool. And then my last comment or guess question was, they mentioned that Lord Jason, who's the head of House Lannister's military power, I don't know if he's the head of House Lannister in general. He might be. Did he say he's going to Harrenhal, or he's going to go try and get to the Tullys first in River Run?
That is a fantastic question. I don't really remember.
His brother says, like, all right, I'll write to Jason and he'll start doing something. I just missed if it was right to River Run or if it's to Harrenhal. So we'll have to check on that.
Yeah, I just don't remember. I just remember it in general being that he's marching on the Riverlands, and they mention it. Jace mentions it later and things like that. But I just don't remember the specifics.
Gets the point across. I mean, he's just going to the center of Westeros, and he's going to start.
There's a large host. Bearing down either to put pressure on the Tullys to declare, or to put pressure on Damon while he's in Harrenhal. So both things are bad for Team Black.
Great freaking scene, though.
Yeah. And he orders to cut down the rat catchers because, like Lee mentions, they're definitely a little stinky.
Yeah. And it's like one of the few things Aegon did. And he's like, cut him down. This is no longer an Aegon reign. We're doing an Aemon reign.
Oh, that's a good point. I like that. So this is this is a combo 2 scenes here. This is just Hugh Hammer time. So this is him having the short conversation with his wife, and then cutting and pasting it from further in the episode, rather, is when they attempt to leave. We know that they can't, because through order of Prince Aemon, Prince Regent, and Protector of the Realm. Not like a ton here, but just curious. I mean, you guys seem to have turned the corner a little bit on these Smallfolk, Hugh Hammer centric scenes.
No, I flipped completely, and I think it's going to be awesome watching him. I think what's going to happen is he's going to be part of like the radical turning of the people, and like I've talked a lot of shit on Miss Arya, but this is kind of playing out in a really fun way too, where I like what she's doing here. But yeah, that's all I got. I think it's just going to keep getting more and more screen time as it gets more important, and we're focusing on King's Landing and like what's really going to happen when the people get pissed and starved, which they seem to be screaming like, we want meat. Like that was the thing that they're looking for. So like food is the problem. So
yeah. And it's just a good job of highlighting what's pushing these people. Hugh seems, I guess, even more than most to have a positive outlook or view of Aegon, where he's like, the king promised, the king promised, the king promised. And it's to a point where his daughter's sick and his wife is telling him they got to leave. So that kind of trumps any type of allegiance he might feel towards Aegon. So definitely excited to see where that keeps developing.
There also seems to be some confusion in the crowd where they're like, wait, did they say Aemond? Do they mean Aegon? Like, it seems like they just have no fucking idea what's going on there either. So kept in the dark.
Yeah. Will they find out the truth about Aegon? The proof is somewhat in the pudding of Aemon being the Prince Regent and Protector of the Realm implies that something has happened to Aegon. Will that turn any type of tide? Who can say? What is Aemon's reputation in King's Landing? We're not aware of that at this point, so maybe that's something that they'll touch on a little bit next episode. My final comment here, again, a part I could play. I could totally have been the "we want meat" guy. Dress me up in that little cap and throw me in that mob, and I'll scream, "We want meat." I don't even eat meat, but I'll be like,
yeah,
hey,
that doesn't work for you.
We want meat. Work for you. Called acting for a reason, baby. Fabian Frankel ain't Kristen Cole in real life, although he is as handsome. But I could yell, "We want meat." Is all I'm trying to say.
More so with this Kristen Cole haircut. Fabian is way more
Caesar
handsome.
cut, baby. I love it. So speaking of Kristen Cole, I almost called you Alicent. Lenny the Cruel mentioned this scene a little earlier of just they have this confrontation, It's difficult to say who came out on top of it, although Alicent does leave him with a little bit of a mic drop and has one of my favorite quotes from the episode here. But just curious, it seems that we're now at the final deterioration of their relationship. It happened somewhat quickly. Cole's changed a lot, I think, since the beginning of them hooking up. And Alicent is, I think in her mind, she's losing like her last lifeline to the council, her last like real, what she might have thought as a supporter almost.
Yeah.
It was so interesting because when he says Alicent's name, I literally went, "Ooh," and then she calls him out, and I was like, "Yeah," because we've like never heard him say that before. We've never heard him address her as that, or maybe even say Alicent. I'm not sure, unless it was to like young Millie's version of Rhaenyra. I don't even know, but I was like, okay. But yeah, this was awesome. This was like one of the first scenes I've ever liked Kristen Cole in, besides like in the very beginning. It was he was excellent in this scene, and he made a lot of sense, like I said earlier. But I just gotta say, Alicent is absolutely snatched in this episode. I was just like looking at her like, oh my God. Olivia Cook. My hottest take, which I said in the group chat of all time, is that that was about Rhaenyra actually.
Yeah,
not
it was.
Alicent. Alicent's my number one girl of the whole Game of Thrones universe. I'll just say that. And my other hot take was that I prefer Emma Darcy's Rhaenyra over Dany. From
Attractiveness wise, not character wise, or both?
Oh my God. I don't know.
No
Let me rewatch
way
Game of
that
Thrones.
you can tell me Rhaenyra has enough material to like better than Daenerys Targaryen. No freaking way. I don't believe you.
No, I know. But can I just love all women?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're my three Mount Rushmores. I got to pick my fourth. I'll get back to you.
Okay. We'll check back.
You got to rewatch Game of Thrones for that one?
Yeah, let me rewatch Game of Thrones real quick.
Well, how about we just we'll put Rhaenys as a placeholder for the fourth spot?
Obviously. That's a great pick. Great choice.
Well, let's take it back to real things here, which this conversation in King's Landing, real things. You're right. Cole was fantastic in this scene. You can just tell his whole entire worldview has been absolutely shattered by Rook's Rest. Correct me if I'm wrong. That thing never. There's something in my brain that can't remember that Rook's Rest. But okay, that's it.
No correction needed.
I love how he's reacting now. Like he seems to be less impulsive, and now he's really thinking through what the future of Westeros is going to be, because I think you already said the line, Cobb, but he says, "We've given the war to the dragons. A dragon rider should lead us." And that's exactly how George R. R. Martin describes it. Pretty much anytime dragons go to war, everybody loses. So it's like it's so well put here, and this is the first time we get to really see it have this type of transformative effect on a character that's living in this world. So, and it's someone as extreme as Kristen Cole, who's a psycho, that it has a bigger impact, like just on me watching him, just knowing how set I thought this guy was, and he's still going to be evil and weirdly just, like he's going to be supporting the wrong side. But I think that this might have centered him a tiny bit to the point where I will be able to give him flowers more easily, which I think is always a big trigger thing on this podcast. But yeah, it was awesome. And I mean, Alicent's starting to spiral, so it makes it easy to root for her, because she's really not even riding for this whole just Warhawks of Team Green. So it's fun to see that. I didn't think she was going to really be put on the back foot so much like this, that it almost seems believable that she could really like turn to Team Green, or Team Black, but I know that this isn't like her character in the book, so we'll probably won't go that direction. But just a great scene.
I'm so interested to see how she continues to take that line, or the lines where he says to her, like, "Have I not spared you? The road ahead, the decisions that need to be made are terrible." I like that he uses that word terrible, because he has somewhat of I don't want to say a vision, because we'll get into visions later with Damon. We don't want to talk too much about visions, but he is foreseeing what needs to be done. And I think I believe him in that he doesn't want Alicent to be put in that position. He's 100% weird. Yeah, he's weird in that, like, we had this conversation about Otto Hightower, about he doesn't have that person to like have that full vulnerability with, where like we don't really know his true intentions or his true heart a ton. Although we mentioned Otto Hightower, I think has no qualms being honest with everyone. But I think that Cole has somewhat of a feeling for Alicent, and I do think he was being truthful there. That could be my Kristen Cole colored glasses, but
I agree with you. But you saying Otto, like I am so excited to see his reaction to what just happened. Like I almost want him back. I don't know, like if he will come back this season because Game of Thrones is good at actually like spreading out their characters and not overusing them. But like it's time, man. I think Aemon being there, he's the crazy one. Like you need somebody to really center him, and he's not as easily controllable as Aegon. So like I think it's time to call Otto back, and that could be Alicent's lifeline. Like that's her only way back into power is through Otto, and I think that's a genius idea because Aemon might give Otto power back if he has like if he is the full king, just because he knows how smart he is. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and I maybe even wrap up the thought that I began that with, because that Michael Scott it a little bit away from me, and that I'm curious if she begins to see the light in his words, if she begins to realize that he was kind of sparing her and was telling the truth, or if she'll just dig her heels in even more at the lack of her ability to influence things, where maybe she's thinking, oh, it wouldn't be like this if I was leading things and making the decisions. So that's something that I personally will be keeping an eye out for. All right. And just to wrap this up with what I thought was, I think maybe my favorite quote from the episode, there were some big heavy hitters in this one. I thought they were really good. But has your loyalty faded, or does it flourish only at night and flee the sunrise like a moth? I was like, damn. Got him. You know what's so funny? I love right now there's a new like reaction meme, let's say, in the House of the Dragon Game of Thrones community, where there's a 3-second clip from I think season 2 of Game of Thrones where Catelyn Stark just yells "gag him," and now that people use it all the time, and it's just this scene made me think of it when I watched it, where she says that to him, and I was just like, "Gag him."
I don't know how I haven't seen that. That feels like it would be right up my Twitter feed alley.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'll infiltrate your Twitter feed, send it to you, so then it starts to pop up on your For You page. We'll tune that algorithm for you. All right, so the last scene we have here, got you, girl, Lady the Cruel, I know you. So last scene is just going to be combo of 2 really quick scenes. Aemon staring at the throne, and then Alicent sitting at Aegon's bedside. Not a ton here, but I think we really want to just talk about this Helaena stuff. This was a little morsel they threw us for our Helaena stands in the audience, aka Lady the Cruel. So
love. I mean, I'm not getting everything I need from her because we don't even have any open prophecies or dreamer sentences out there right now for me and Luke to try and guess what could happen. Usually we have one an open line that we're like, I wonder when that's gonna come. They're really underutilizing her, and she was my one to watch. And but this was great, and I think she's just kind of it's like, how is she the one who knows? Is she just guessing? Does she have a vision about it? Luke, what do you think?
I think she this was her version of vision, but they're not making it cryptic for the audience anymore. She just knows. I think she just knows because she already knew about. She didn't know about the dragon. I guess that was Alicent really dropping the statue. So I could be reading into that. But she hasn't been doing much this season. So I like that she's still being shown as having premonitions, if you want to say it like that. But honestly, I thought the shot of when it goes into that scene where it's Aemon looking at the throne was just art. That was a screenshot in itself. And it was so cool because it has the more wild version of Thrones with all the swords on the side. It wouldn't have looked as cool if it was in modern Game of Thrones time. So I really liked how that looked.
And I'm curious if it was purposeful. I guess in some way it's always purposeful, but there he has the Viserys, and it's flipped, I think, on YouTube, but over his right shoulder, that statue of Viserys is over his right shoulder, and then Balerian's skull is above him, and then Helaena comes in off his left shoulder.
Ooh.
And I don't know if that means anything, but I just thought that was an interesting choice. And I think for Helaena here, she is just showing that she's pretty much saying what everyone seems to be thinking, or at the very least, Alicent. Alicent will ask Kristen Cole what was Aemon's role. Alicent will give Aemon a side eye. We know that Alicent is assuming that Aemon played a big role in Aegon being this injured, while Helaena just walks up and says, was it worth it? Because she doesn't give a shit. She just will say what she thinks and what she means and stuff. So
Kathleen, is there any fear at all that Aemon might act on her knowing or talking like this to him?
So my note here is, have we ever seen these two talk to each other? I'm like, I don't know that they've ever spoken in their life. Period.
We saw season 1. He talks about her when Aegon's like, she's weird or whatever, and he was like, Aemon's like, I would do my duty, like I would be a good husband to her or whatever.
Yeah, I'd fuck her.
Well, yeah, I guess
That's
yeah,
what he'd say.
young Aemon was saying that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I feel like everyone underestimates Helaena, so no. I don't think she's in danger because I really think people underestimate her.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, we're always keeping an eye and an ear out for Helaena, so no worries there, fam. Okay, now moving into bucket number 2, Damon.
Aegon wakes up, kind of.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot
right.
about that. Yes.
Mummy.
Yeah.
It just
well,
means
Alicent
for
is-
sure we're gonna have him wake up and he's gonna have to make a decision about what he says about Aemond. That's my only comment.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. So the Damon buckets are always tricky. It's how much do we talk about at once? Man, I don't know. I think first thing we should definitely talk about is just him giving the Brackens this ultimatum that they decline, and then he doesn't take the step that we would anticipate Damon would take. So I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts were when we even get the shot of Caraxes' head is behind him, and it's like, okay, well, Jacaerys, let's open up them jowls. Let's Randall and Dick on Tarly this motherfucker, and it just doesn't happen. So I thought that was interesting. I was a little shocked.
I was pretty surprised at Damon's thinking here to let the Blackwoods basically go around, murder and plunder everything, and that was going to bring him in line and bring the river land lords together. I don't know what he was thinking, and you can attribute every crappy decision and every disloyal thing he does to Harrenhal and maybe by extension Alice Waters. I don't know if she's the direct reason he's getting haunted or if it's just the haunting of the place, but maybe that's why he's being all weird and like not strategic. He's being incompetent. He's being illogical. I don't like anything that's going on in Damon's head right now. And I feel like every decision he's doing is moving away from Rhaenyra and the ultimate goal of like uniting the realm. And it started in this scene where I have no words or I just don't even know what to think about him just being like, go basically murder that house and everybody's going to rally together. Like, I don't know why he thinks that would work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Alice Rivers is clearly having an impact on him in some way.
Oh, I
but
said Alice Waters. Sorry. Rivers.
You're good. It's pretty close. That was always something that was like, that's people have to mix that up in universe too, where Waters is like King's Landing area, like the Crown Lands, your Waters, and then when you're the Riverlands, your
Okay.
Rivers. So
That was my question.
that's tight enough that I'm sure some people are like, this is stupid. Just like the Aegon thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lean.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think part of us not liking this Damon stuff is because he's just not doing what we need and want him to do. Like, he's our boy, and we've known he's gray, if not really like on the side of like morally terrible. So we knew he had this in him, but him just like fully being like, no, like Rhaenyra can come and rule with me if she wants, but like if not, fuck her. This is like all me. Like I'm the original heir. Like fuck everything else. Like I'm going, and he pretty much confirms he's going for his own claim here. And it's like, this isn't going to work for you. It's really just not. Like no one is backing Damon. No one, and only by fear. And even here, it's like the Brackens were like, okay, go fuck yourself. Just burn me then. Cause what the hell? And then I would, if I'm a Bracken, I'm not respecting Damon, even if he didn't murder all those like wives and children. I'm like, you don't even stand by your word. Like you're a pussy, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's almost, let's say, a central theme to all of this is that he's losing his mind. He's losing his touch. He's floundering around. He has no ability to grasp, let's say, the fish of the Riverlands. They're all just jumping and swimming through his fingers, and he has nothing concrete to show for really any of his actions.
Let me just say that, like in my spiel earlier, I was saying like he's being incompetent. If he was disloyal but still being shown as competent, that still makes for a fun to watch character. Or if he was being very loyal to Rhaenyra but failing at everything, at least he was being loyal to the side that our goal is aiming toward. But the fact that he's doing both, it's just a frustrating watch. And another thing I saw was that people are saying these couple of episodes, this run in Harrenhal is distancing himself from the version of Damon from the books, which that's always going to be like, if you're going to step away from the source material, you better make it entertaining and good and well written. But if you're going to make that the worst part of the show, then we get back to the season 5 starting seeds of Game of Thrones, where they're really stepping away from the Dorne stuff and it's starting to be shitty. Like that's kind of the vibes I'm getting here, where I hope they've thought long term of how they're going to course correct with him. if they even go that route. I'm just assuming something is going to turn good for him and make him like a good character. If George R. R. Martin says he's his favorite character in the whole Game of Thrones universe, because right now, like, he had a great season 1, but he's been failing at everything he's doing this season. So I just want some up and up for my boy, because he came into the season being my favorite character, and I don't know if I would say that at this point anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. There's not like a ton, and again, I'm not the end all be all expert of all of this, but there's not like a ton of content for them to fill a full season worth of an arc for him. So they're doing a lot of extrapolation. All of this vision stuff is a lot of their own making. And yeah, I just think it's frustrating in that we're not really getting development. We're just kind of spinning our wheels.
Almost.
Yeah, we're kind of spinning our wheels in the mud. And it's just everything that's happening around him is interesting. In my opinion, all of like the riverlands politicking and the relationships of all the lords, and the fact that, you know, the Tully Lord is old but he's not dead, so we're kind of got to wait for him, and all that stuff works for me. But yeah, the vision stuff just kind of, we're just spinning our wheels here just to talk about it because we have to talk about it. The whole scene vision thing with his mom, I guess we can give him the benefit of the doubt in the sense, which seems wild to say in the context, that he never really met his mom. You know, he was 3 years old when she died, so he's not aware that this is his mom. You know, Alice Rivers is, what I'm taking from this is Alice Rivers is planting this into his head, and she doesn't know what his mom looked like either. His mom had a very distinct, I think they're making it obvious if you read the books and stuff, where like their mom had a very distinct look. She had 2 different color eyes. She had gold hair. She had like kind of a very prominent, unique nose. So it's there, and that like I'm understanding them like bouncing this off in the writer's room, but man, I don't know how you put this to television. And again, we got niece and uncle, we got brother sister stuff, but I don't know. There's something about that that's just like I don't think it hit in any type of way. I don't think anyone enjoyed this. So yeah.
I was watching with my dad, and I was like, this is his mom, like immediately, because I remember, if you recall, in episode 1, or episode 2, whichever it was, when Millie was there, I had said when she was turned around, I thought it was going to be the mom. So we did the mom, we did Rhaena, and I was like, or we did Millie, we did Rhaena, and now it had to have been the mom. What other woman would he be seeing? But I actually didn't quite get that he didn't know it was her.
Yeah,
the whole time.
He had no idea.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, it's all
And then she throws it in his face a little earlier, where she says it's a shame you never met your mom, and I don't know if she's meaning that like,
I think that's after.
Oh yeah, it's after
Yeah,
for
it is
sure.
after.
Where she like, that's kind of a way of her like almost saying like, haha, I've been messing with you, but also is she saying that he never had like a comforting woman in his life, so he doesn't understand the values and the virtues and the positives of women, where he only sees them as weak. I'm not really entirely sure. Alice Rivers is very clearly not Team Damon. She calls him out for all of the atrocities that are happening that she heard on the wind. Shout out to all of our Wheel of Time fans out there. So
thought the same thing. Nice.
So
I will say this was her first sign of any sort of like what her motivations are, is that she seems to be empathetic towards the innocent, which is great quality, but just not if you're going to be messing around with Damon Targaryen.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess just to wrap all of this up, just, I don't know how much we really even, again, want to talk about it, but just some bullet points that I would say are important is that Damon knows that Aemon One Eye is in control in King's Landing. He's gotten that news. He even tells Alice Rivers, like, yo, don't talk to him if you meet him. And she's like, I heard the same about you. So she's not scared of anyone, it seems. So I'm just enjoying her character at the very least.
Me too.
Even though the visions themselves are frustrating to us. And Sir Simon, I think, continues to be a highlight. I love his little quirks. I like how he giggles when he feels a little nervous, when like he might have like messed up or Damon's being weird, and he goes, like he just kind of throws a giggle out there. And then just the River Lords, they're not going to take the shit. They're not happy with everything that Damon has allowed to do. And we'll see how that kind of ends up for him. I'm just really enjoying the portrayal of how difficult the Riverlands is. It's always talked about in the books how it's just like a bunch of people running around and doing their own stuff. The Tullys don't have like a complete iron fist over what's happening. So again, the world building, the characterization's there for me. But yeah, man, we're still turning these wheels of Damon thinks he should be king. He doesn't trust Rhaenyra's claim without him, and he doesn't. He didn't like Viserys, and he thinks he should have been king. And it's, I don't know. Maybe, dare I say, I'm curious of how it's going to be resolved, but I think I need the resolution.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I just don't know how many episodes are we going to get with this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I have 3 quick things, rapid fire. 1, Sir Simon was chilling so hard before Damon came. Like, Damon came and fucked his whole life up. He's so annoyed.
Yeah.
2,
and Damon's broke. He hasn't even paid him. So
yeah,
Simon would be like, oh,
exactly.
money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't
2, love Alice Rivers. She had some really good lines. Like, once again, in the name of power, it's the weak and the women who must endure. And this is a crimes against the innocent, not war. Like, just like absolutely owning Damon. And then 3rd, at the very last Damon scene, I loved when the lords or whoever was like the Riverlands are ancient as hell and you're cursed as fuck, brother. Like, you are so fucked here. I loved that. I'm like, this guy, he is just setting himself up for failure more and more. Like, he's there hasn't been a win yet in my eyes. Do you see it? Yeah. Okay.
No, that line was actually awesome from the dude. I don't know if we got a name of the girl that steps up and speaks on behalf of the River Lords. I like to assume she was like a reed because she kind of looked like she was like wearing like swampy kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, but either way, what she actually like she said, there's 2 things that get said here that I thought were worth clocking. Was like, when the Blackwoods ravaged the whole land, they were basically holding up the Targaryen black and red the entire time. So now that message is spreading and probably causing more harm than good around the middle of Westeros. So that was something. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, hold on. Oh yeah. So they bring it back up that basically half of the entire continent now believes that Damon was the cause of Jacaerys being murdered or assassinated in his room. So I know we assumed that, but it was good to hear that news spread throughout all of Westeros. And then my last signing off point for this bucket was they heard our conversation about the whole my prince, my king thing, and they threw in that my king consort thing. So I loved hearing that because it was so weird that they had that before, but they didn't bring it back up. So I'm happy they clarified that.
Yeah. And they call him my prince here. They're not doing any of that my grace, my king stuff. So yeah. And I guess just to add a little bit of context, this is going to be the last thing we mention here. So the Blackwoods are burning seps, which on its face seems a little odd because you would think that that's like their religious houses too. But the Blackwoods are actually the last house left in the Riverlands that they worship the old gods still. So they're like the Starks. They worship weirwood trees. Their like shield thing is a weirwood tree with a bunch of ravens around it. And that's little fun fact for all of our Bloodraven fans. Bloodraven's mother is a Blackwood.
Okay.
So
cool.
That's a connection there. And if you don't get that reference, you'll get it when a Knight of Second Kingdom show comes out. So we'll be talking about that in maybe like 4 years. So stick around. Stick around. All right. So we're going to move now into what we really want to talk about compared to Damon, Team Black, the team that he left behind that we're still holding the banner for and rooting for. So I don't know how much we want to I thought the episode opened on a really good note where it's just immediate aftermath. We have Corlys shedding a tear on the Driftwood throne, and then we have Rhaenyra also seems to be fresh off crying, if not crying herself, looking off into either the sunrise or the sunset at Dragonstone. Just, nice little slap in the face for us again to remind us that Rhaenys died last episode.
Yeah.
I'm good there.
All right. So Black Council, number 1 here. Sir Alfred just continuing his low standing with Rhaenyra. Guy does not shut his mouth, although here he's wrong. In the past, we know he's had some type of wisdom involved. And yeah, there's really not a ton here, although Rhaenyra just ends this council with the quote, "What will you have me do?" She just seems to be lost and floundering. She's very frustrated with the state of the council, just like Luke mentioned with the Alicent thing, where you're a woman, we don't care.
Yeah, I'm good there. I really want to talk about the Massaria scene that this directly leads into.
Same.
Because so some things that I pointed out here. First of all, man, she has had a turn. Her and Kristen Cole have been like bipolar turnarounds for me, which Never would have thought in my entire life. But Kathleen, you said this earlier, and I didn't know if this was meant to be taken literally or not. But when Miss Arya says that King's Landing has 1,000 people, was she saying that like exaggerating, or is there literally 1 million people that are peasants in King's Landing? Because that's a crazy power level. That's a crazy amount of like just I don't even what resource on that side, because if only like 1,000 people died from Rook's rest, Jesus from Rook's rest, 1 million people, like that's enough to actually be like one of the most important assets in this whole war. Like, is that something we know, Kyle? Do we know if there's 1 million citizens in King's Landing?
Yeah, I'm looking at stuff because Tyrion mentions that, but in season 7, that the population is
might grow to that population at some point. But either way, like, I didn't know it was that not big of a number.
It's a lot of bodies, baby. It's a big city.
Yeah, can we talk about the Miss Arya thing?
Yeah, of course.
Just jump. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Ain't no rules.
So true. So last episode, when I had said, I wished Rhaenyra was trained at all, like with a sword, like an Arya type. In this episode, she literally addresses it. She's like, I know every freaking lord in this entire country, in this world, but they never taught me anything about strategy or battle or war, or they never put a sword in my hand. They would have if the second I could walk if I was a boy. So I'm glad they addressed that. And in the first scene, I did want to say that now that Vhagar is a little bit wounded and tired after battle, that's like what they want to do. They want to go after Vhagar, which I think is like a decent strategy. But now that they know that Aemond is like the regent, that they're like, everyone's scared of Vhagar. We'll see it when we go to Lady Arryn. She's scared of Vhagar, and then the Freys are scared of Vhagar. Everyone's scared of Vhagar. So over and over again, Vhagar seems like the biggest threat in this entire show.
Yeah, she's got clout.
She's got too much power.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that Alinda here is Rhaenyra's handmaiden. She's taking on a bigger role. We've seen her kind of throughout the show, and we know that Miss Arya has this resourcefulness, this adaptability. She sees, I guess, potential in things that other people don't see. So Alinda now is kind of becoming our little songbird that we're using as a spy. So I just like that she's growing, like Luke's saying, that she's growing into a bigger role. We have another character now that's stepping up into maybe a void that might have been created by someone else. And yeah, I'm curious with this Rhaenyra thing of like thinking back of Millie Rhaenyra. Like, do you think Millie Rhaenyra would have sat through training on like battles and military tactics? I'm not entirely sure that would have been her jam either.
If Millie's Rhaenyra was named Hand as a kid instead of later in life, like when she was as like a late teen or whatever she was, maybe
Hand.
Oh yeah, Heir.
Yeah, I was like, Rhaenyra as a kid.
Yeah.
Crazy Millie was the Hand.
Yeah. I mean, like if you know you're the heir as a kid, then they would have to. But she was a little bit older instead.
Yeah,
so.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough. I like the line too. She says, "I think the path I'm given, the path I must, or whatever it is, but it has never been trod." I'm looking at my notes. It says the path I has never been trod. And I'm like, that's not English. I was just searching in my brain for how that could be worked into a grammatically correct sentence, and I think I tried 3 times and failed. But yeah, and it's just, we mentioned it again, but Miss Arya has this pulse on King's Landing still. We're not entirely sure how, but she knows that Cole made a mistake with Meleys. So I'm just excited to see where that little thread, that little flower seed is going to grow into. We know that Alinda is sent to King's Landing. She speaks with a gold cloak. She name drops Lady Miss Arya, who she still has clout in King's Landing. And we meet the handmaiden that Luke obviously recognized at the pub in that one scene in, what was that episode, maybe 2 or 3, and we know that she's got some skeletons, or rather she is one of Aegon's skeletons in a closet. I don't really want to refer to her that way as a victim of sexual assault, but that's just what came to my mind. And so we'll see where that goes. They're plotting in some way. They want to join in on this propaganda battle. So
And for what it's worth, I cut me admitting that last episode, not because of me admitting that, but because of it was a long podcast and that was like just in an area where it was like a cuttable sentence. So we did clock that. And this is the official first time you're hearing us clock that she was from season 1. Yes, we remember.
I might have to cut this too, though.
It stays an us thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, so that was good that we combined those because that just makes things a little bit easier. This next thing I think we're going to combine as well is just so we have Jace kind of bossing up and he's having this conversation with Baela. I think we just might as well talk about him actually following through on the plan he creates with her here. Yeah. Maybe just take the first scene first, which makes sense, and that he's admitting this humiliation that he's going through. Yeah, words are working for me right now. And him and Baela just have this good conversation. My opening point, which is not like a breakdown in any way, and it's not like adding to the plot or anything, but how is he not kissing her here?
I need them to just like get married and like I was actually thinking the same thing, but was like, are they even like allowed to be without actually being married? Are they allowed to? They're betrothed to one another, but are you sure?
At that point, you're just kissing your cousin for fun.
So true. And like, I mean, they did the whole thing with Millie about her virtue, Rhaenyra's virtue and stuff. Like Baela, they need to get hitched. But I was talking to myself during this, and I'm like, Baela is one of their like big fighters now. Like they can't have her pregnant on her dragon fighting.
Yeah.
So I was thinking the same thing because they're the new Corlys and Rhaenys. They're the best couple now. Now that Rhaenys has passed, we need a new best couple in town, and those two are absolutely it. For sure.
I'm sure the mother would turn a blind eye if he gave her a little Southern Lord's kiss before he rode off on his dragon to the phrase. Come on, man. That's my only negative point for Jace in this entire episode. You got to kiss your lady before you leave like that.
So true.
Okay, like I said, that didn't add to anything. So, yeah.
Luke, what did you think of
him? Not
I guess we can. Yeah, I want to let's just keep taking it because we already talked about the whole reason. This is where they decide the plan. They're gonna go talk to the phrase so that they can confront Jason Lannister earlier. Like that's where this kind of gets thought of here. But let's just take it there then. So do we want to go to the twins or do we want to go? Yeah. So I thought this scene was awesome. Like Jace was a rock star. Like he was probably the best performance of the episode, maybe in this scene where you could just feel that political savviness working. He's thinking on the spot. He's willing to make deals on behalf of Rhaenyra where he's going to give these Freys who way more normal than Sir Walder Frey. I don't know if he's a sir. I just said sir, but Filch from Harry Potter as I'm wearing the Hogwarts shirt. Way more reasonable. And I believe them, but am I questioning my belief in how genuine they were because of Walder Frey, or did it feel like there was, okay, I am. Okay. So first of all, the bridge looked amazing. I loved seeing like having the meeting on the actual crossing was pretty badass. But like this seems like a great deal. You give away the cursed and broken down Harrenhal to the Freys in order to help your Stark allies get to the war faster. You solidify like a standhold in the Riverland in the middle of the Riverlands, which is super important. And yeah, dude, I just love Jace's confidence. He didn't waver. He's like, you're scared of a dragon that's a million miles away. Like, do you see that right there on the hill? Like that thing will fuck you guys up. Like, how do you not just like ride for this man? He's just confident. He's smooth. I loved everything about Jace this scene, and it pays off because even though Rhaenyra's pissed at him for doing this behind her back, she does thank him because this was a really good political move.
Oh, yeah. The confidence was off the charts. When he's like, for that, my mother will want more than your crossing. Bent knees, baby. Bent knees. Well, wait, what are the names of these people? Because I didn't catch that either time.
So it's almost tough to say. I'm reluctant to think that his name is Lord Forrest Frey, only because it would be quite a departure from my understanding of Forrest Frey as a character. Like Forrest Frey in the books is like a knight, like a fighter, like a younger, like in the thick of it type of person, while this guy, no offense to him, didn't seem like that type of guy. So I'm not really entirely sure who this was supposed to be. I didn't read anything on the internet, so I'm sure someone can fill us in here. But because Forrest Frey is a pretty like fan favorite character from the books, which is funny because people going into this were like, to Luke's point, people are going to come in with the wrong connotation of the phrase because of Walder Frey, but the Freys are actually pretty good, like pretty cool in this time period, and that's just the passage of time. That's what happens. So I'm going to maybe bite my tongue on saying who this is. There could be some type of development moving forward, but going back to Jace, I love the move where they're like getting to the kind of climax of the negotiation, and he just stands up and holds his cup out and makes her pour him the glass as he like makes eye contact with the Lord, and then takes a sip. And I was just like, this guy's a boss, dude. He just knows what's good, baby. He just knows what's good. Yeah, this was just awesome. Jace is the man.
He's got that Harwin strong charisma. He really does.
And the curls,
I love this guy.
And the curls.
I did too. And I was more interested in her than him anyway.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah.
No. I didn't mean that. I mostly was like, it's cool that you don't know, because I was more interested in her anyway. She was like the one I was like latched onto in the scene if it wasn't Jace. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting how like you can get characterizations off of a small scene like this, but they seem to have a fairly like equal relationship.
Yeah.
You know, while he might be the Lord, she clearly has a say in the affairs and is, this feels weird to say, but is allowed a seat at the table and things like that. So we'll see, how much involvement they have moving forward. But like Luke mentioned too, this is just a W for Team Black. I mean, he's promising a castle, but it doesn't need to happen until after the war. So it's like, that's something that we'll write that check and we'll see if it bounces or cashes when we get there.
I mean, he's also promising Damon as protection, which is tough.
Yeah, well, she even says too, like, and Damon's consented to this, I'm sure. And then Jace, this is a good line, I'd say, on the fly of just he'll do what his queen commands. I don't think Jace even maybe doesn't believe that. I think there's part of him that believes that. It's just obviously hard to fully believe that because we know.
And Damon's, it also doesn't matter because by the time the Starks cross, you would think that they're already like, it doesn't matter, Damon, if he's involved or not. But
yeah. All right. So if there's nothing else there, right?
Nope.
Okay. So we're going to move now to, this is just a very quick scene where we have, we can do another copy and paste here. So we can combine Rhaenyra and Baela have this discussion on Rhaenys, where then Rhaenyra gives her the task of asking Corlys to be her hand. And then right after that, we can just talk about Baela discussing things with Corlys.
I'll take it, because this is the scene where this with the Corlys scene is the one where I texted you guys and was like, I call Baela as MVP, and then later I was like, I call Jace.
yeah.
I get to go first, so I'll eliminate one for you.
Yeah, I know you're gonna pick Jace, so I'll pick Baela. I said that to Alex beforehand, but yeah, I just think that like with these two scenes, Baela just gets it. Like she knows the history, she respects it, she knows her like place in this, she knows like the way things should be done and she wants to respect that, but while still being a badass and like breaking some rules when she can. She's just so fucking cool. Like the way she was talking to Corlys, the way she was talking to Rhaenyra and just respecting Rhaenys, I was like, I fucking love this. Especially at first I wasn't sure what the box was, and then I was thinking it was like the hand thing, and I thought she was going to give it to Baela, and I was like, how does she know anything about war? That's not going to help. So I'm interested what you guys think about Corlys being the hand. Should have been Rhaenys, but open.
I was so happy that they did this because I brought this up as a complaint when all the men at Rhaenyra's council were saying there's no hand. Like, why did this not happen earlier? But it also makes sense. Let's solidify the relationship with the Valyrians, but that doesn't, it's not like that needed to happen. And Corlys took it in the worst way possible until Baela kind of explained it, how this is like an honor. And this is exactly what Rhaenys would want. Like, you should help fulfill her will. And I loved everything about this. And yeah, Baela was the easy second choice of an MVP for me if it wasn't going to be Jace.
Yeah.
Just because of these scenes. Like, and a couple other things that happened I think are really interesting. Well, one, they confirmed what you were saying, Kyle, in the show canon that Meleys was the fastest dragon. Like they say that here, which was really cool. I liked the conversation talking about Meleys and how Damon tried to ride Meleys first because it was Damon's mom's dragon, which was probably another reason that they decided to show that vision in this episode, because they're going to talk about her in a different scene. So that woman that we saw Damon with is the original rider of Meleys, which is really cool to see. And then another thing I wanted to bring up here that it kind of was like this is a tiny bit of a little bit of this is a little bit of a tangent, but this scene made me sad that Rhaenys never found out about Laenor, because Rhaenyra says, oh, like, your mom didn't always love me. And in the back of my mind was, yeah, because she thinks you literally murdered her son. And I'm sad that she died not knowing. And there's no way they're going to tell Corlys at this point either. But I did bring that up earlier in the podcast this season. I just feel like she could have been told and she would have gotten over it at some point. But either way, that was sad to hear. But in my last comment for the actual Baela and Corlys scene, I love the name drop, Kyle, from Yee and Ashai, whatever. That was, dude, Yee is one of the visibly coolest spots in all of Game of Thrones world. So I love anytime they talk about Yee. I think that even had a show plan that got scrapped at some point, but who knows?
Yeah, I think it did.
And yes, Baela gave the best speech of her life when she says, "I'm blood and fire, but Driftmark needs salt and sea."
Yeah,
right? Sea and salt, salt and sea. You seem like you were going to correct me there.
Salt and sea. It must pass to salt and sea. Yeah.
She just crushed this scene.
There is, in my opinion, there's just so much good here. We talked about a lot of it. I just really want to call out the line that Baela has here. I think anybody, unfortunately, I would assume most people have the experience of losing either a parent or a grandparent, but just, I wish I had known her when she was young. That was like a shot right to the heart. That's so tough.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gassing up Rhaenys, and it happens with family members that are older than you are, obviously, and your uncles, your aunts, all those types of figures in your life, and it's fun to talk about them in that way, and see pictures of their old exploits. But yeah, I just thought that was such a good line, especially in this situation, because even Rhaenyra didn't really know her when she was young either, and like you said, Kathleen, is that they seem so similar, and Rhaenyra mentions it too here. So I just thought that line was perfect for that scene itself. And then again, Baela talking to Corlys, and I love this idea that Corlys wants to kind of take hold of all of the grief in the situation, and not to blame him. There's no right or wrong way to grieve rather your wife, but how Baela even says to him, like, I grieve my grandmother who loved me, but I carry her with me, like she's trying to tell Corlys, like, this grief is not just yours. And there's something that Rhaenys was fighting for that's still going on. Like, you can't just run away like you have previously in your life. I like that they called out his travels that he's famous for in that light, where it's, you might be famous and you're rich because of this, but like that pattern of thinking and that way you acted had a negative impact on the people that you love. Like, you can't go down that path again. It just felt like Baela was wise beyond her years in this conversation. She came out like way more mature. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate Corlys in any way. He just lost his wife. But yeah, I thought these scenes were just so well done. I thought the dialogue was just fantastic. And she convinced me. She was like, I will see Rhaenyra ascend the Iron Throne as Rhaenys wished, as Rhaenys herself should have. And I was like, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So he gagged him, literally gagged him, gagged Corlys enough to be like, be my heir, please.
Yeah, that's so true. He was like,
Do you imagine how hurt Rhaena would have been if that did happen, though?
Oh my God.
That would have been rough. That was my first thought. I was like, no, don't give everything to Baela.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so glad they gave.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm just so glad they gave Rhaenys her due. Like, they really threw respect on her name in this episode. We already had it every episode that she was in, respect, but like this was like probably some of the last times we'll talk about Rhaenys within the show, maybe a mention or two, but this was like such a great, every Team Black scene that was mentioned, Rhaenys, it was just awesome.
Yeah.
Ooh, and Kyle, I just thought of this question right now, because like, speaking of the name drop for Shy, is that what is it? Just Shy, right?
Yeah,
Shy
works.
Okay. So that's the home of Melisandre, or where she came from. Is she alive in Shy now? Because isn't she like hundreds? I don't remember if they said how old she is, but she would have been, right?
Off the top of my head, because that's not something I've read recently, I would say it's safe to assume. I'm going to operate under the idea that she is alive and doing her thing over there.
I wonder if Corlys ran into her while I was over. That's maybe. Really cool thought. Yeah.
Maybe.
But okay. Yeah.
Maybe. I like that thought too. And last thing too, to wrap up here, I just like when she calls out the travels and the old glory of Driftmark and the 9, what's she called? The 9 halls? I forget. It's bad. But when she says like, kings and all these people, and like, I wonder if they knew that it was all for her. And that just made me think too of she totally obviously does not know about Alan and Adam. So will that impact her view of her grandfather? Something to be seen, because that's just an interesting little back burner thing happening. So
yeah. I was just gonna say this is easily pushing us towards Adam and Alan, as one of them's getting on a dragon. Like absolutely, one of them is getting. Like Baela was like, no, not me, someone else maybe, and then it's just absolutely going to be one of them.
Someone like a sailor, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, so the next is going to be, speaking of Rhaena, very short scene, not a ton here, of just the Eerie. We get a new look at the Eerie. They've changed it literally every time it's been in Game of Thrones. Neither here nor there. But Lady Jane Arryn, I'm a fan.
Dude, the shot was badass. I loved the look of what the Eerie was here. It felt the most fantastical, where it was like this very skinny, impenetrable castle, and that's what it's known for. And she says it here, like, the only way that people can beat us is basically dragons, and you guys sent us the baby dragons that aren't going to do anything. So she's being very backhanded to Rhaena here, who is doing her best. And also, they didn't specify, and she says that she's like, you didn't say give you the biggest dragon of all time. So it was like this little battle goes on, and it kind of ends with the Arryn winning, because she's like, oh, I'm sorry about your aunt, because I'm assuming that's her getting the news right there, and she's just like in shock as she's walking out, unless she already knew. I don't remember the timing of that, but that's what I took from that scene, is that was her just being like,
by the way,
she already knew.
I think she knew.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, that was my take. We could be wrong. That's just the way.
She was gone way before Rhaenys died, though. So if she did know, it was like through Lady Arryn before that scene off screen.
Totally.
No, yeah,
totally.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think Rhaena was good in this scene, as good as she could have been. She was fighting for what she had, and she's definitely Damon's daughter. Like, she's tough. She's tough, just like Baela. So I think Rhaena, I'm excited to talk about later when they mention Rhaena and her attempts on the dragons and stuff. Thank God they finally mentioned that. I was so glad they mentioned that.
That was cool.
I didn't think we were ever going to see Rhaena again. For some reason, I was like, oh, that's an exit on Rhaena, a series wrap.
Yeah. And to Luke, to your point, or maybe against your point, sorry, I felt like they came to like a little bit of an understanding, like a little head nod moment, where Lady Arryn says, I mislike feeling powerless, and then Rhaena responds with, so do I. And I felt like Lady Arryn liked that, where she was like, all right, little girl, I like you. Like, I like that response type of thing. So that's the way.
But she doesn't have any choice but to accept the dragon help that they were given, right? Like, so there's not really like anything either of them can do in this predicament. But
no. And Lady Arryn seems quick enough to realize that she's, at the end of the day, she's dealing with a teenage girl that is not actually in a position to do anything besides maybe give quote unquote excuses. I thought Lady Arryn looked great. I like the blue dress, thought it looked great. The blue eyes, she seemed like she had a very good commanding presence. So I was a big fan of her character. All right. Now we have another very small scene here. Again, could just be something that we're planting a seed for future episodes of just Rhaenyra sending Sir Alfred to Harrenhal to report on Damon. This, I would say I read this too as like a Missaria idea of, she's been watching the council. She understands the frustration. Maybe that's taking some agency and some wisdom away from Rhaenyra. That's just the way I read it. And that now she's playing a little more politics, let's say, within her own council, which she kind of needs to do because she's been struggling.
She was being so fake here, right? Like, purposefully, or was that not what we were supposed to take? Because she was being so expressive and like trying to deflect. Like, no, I'm not trying to get rid of you. And like, you've been such a loyal person. The second time I watched it, I was like, yo, this is, to me, I think she's like being fake, and she's not used to being fake, is why it comes across that way. Because she is trying to play the game a little bit more. I could also be reading into it, because it seems like, Kathleen, you thought she was being genuine here. You don't think she was actually trying to get rid of Sir Alfred? Because there's no way she wasn't.
So I didn't take it as being fake. I thought it was kind of like a twofer, right? She knows Sir Alfred is loyal as hell. He's like, fuck the High Towers, right? I thought it was like it was a good deal for everyone. Get him out because he's causing trouble, but he's also like a good person to have. Like, go send him to Damon because we need to find out his intentions. And like Jay says earlier to Baela, he's like, he needs to like update us on his standing. Like, what's going on? We haven't heard a single thing about what he's doing over there. So I didn't necessarily take it. I thought she was being legit, being like, no, we're cool. Like, I understand. Like, you're loyal, you're sassy, but you're loyal. Just go help.
I thought like the smiles that Emma was doing, I felt like Rhaenyra was trying to act. Right. I don't know. Kyle, what was your read on it?
Lean's a little biased.
Yeah.
Okay. She's like kicking her feet every time Rhaenyra's on the screen. No, I don't think I read it in as much of the way you're reading it, Luke, but it did feel like she was trying to pepper him up a little bit, giving him a little bit of compliments. And then it's like, okay, now go literally almost and figuratively ride into the dragon's mouth in Harrenhal and go figure some stuff out for me. So it does seem like a two birds with one stone thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. They gave us a shot too of him riding through the riverlands, it seemed, or through the forest at any rate. So they're making a point for us to remember this conversation. So I assume we're gonna get that even next episode. So we shall see.
Damon might kill Alfred. There might be a world where we see Damon kill him.
Yeah.
We will definitely find out.
Yeah.
Will it be this season? Will it be next season? Who can say? Tune in next week. Okay. And this is the last scene we have here. This is Jace returning and then hatching a plan with Rhaenyra. So they have a little bit of a discussion about Visenya. They're arguing about which one of them feels more powerless. And then they stumble upon this idea. I mean, not even stumble upon. This is pretty much Jace's idea to look into the Targaryen histories to see if there's even an inkling, even a drop of blood out there that they can find to saddle someone up.
Incredible.
He did not skip a beat from his confidence and his attitude from the twins, from stacking up that W and bringing it to Rhaenyra. She was, like I said earlier, she wasn't super happy that he did it without her permission, but this was a great move. And Jace again is like standing toe to toe with the leader of Team Black. Like, he feels like the heir so much now. And I just love the weight that she's like respecting him almost more than anybody. Like, she is giving a lot of weight to everything he's saying. And I guess it's going to be a really interesting conversation, Kathleen, for me and you to guess who is going to be riding the two hidden dragons. And then if you're going to bring up what you mentioned earlier, like Alan,
Sea Smoke.
Or that would be Sea Smoke is what I would think. Not so much as the two Vermithor and Silverwing. And Vermithor is the one that Damon was singing to last season, or was that earlier this season?
Yes.
That was last.
That was
last
it. Yeah, it was
season.
last season.
And these two are bad motherfuckers, by the way, that he's saying that there are two dragons that can go toe to toe with Vhagar in the same way that Meleys did. Like, that's just like, these might be the two strongest dragons on their side, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, Vermithor is the second biggest living dragon.
Dude, Ulf is hopping on Vermithor for sure.
1,000%. 1,000%.
But who on the, what's the third one? Sea Smoke, Vermithor, and
Silverwing.
Silverwing. I don't know about Silverwing, but
I think it's gonna have to be a non-Targaryen or Valyrian.
Who's riding?
That's the whole point of this conversation. Ulf is gonna ride something.
Oh, okay. You're saying Ulf's gonna ride Vermithor?
Either one.
What's the point of Ulf if not for this, right?
Literally.
And he might even be used as an example of somebody with the blood that tries and dies. Like, he could literally die, but he's going to attempt to ride a dragon. I'm staking everything on that. Like, that has to be what happens. Or else
how's he gonna find out? Like, they're gonna open up a casting call?
No, I mean, they have the records. They're gonna be able to find out that there was a bastard son that was related to Damon in some way. I think there might be records, and the way you're asking that question, I'm questioning everything I'm saying right now. So maybe
I'm just curious of what your guys' idea is, because they're like, okay, like, even when they find people, what's step 2? It's, step 1, search the history.
Send them in
step
there,
2,
baby.
Question mark. Step 3, put them on a dragon. Yeah, it's like ravens flying, just posters everywhere. Do you have white hair?
Remember that little boy that was in the kid fighting pits that was like under the thing that was like probably Aegon's bastard child? He's gonna be like 7 now. They're gonna just stick him on Silverwing and be like, "You are now on Team Black."
He's not 7. He's 2 weeks older than he was.
So he's 7 now.
He's like 2.5 weeks older than he was in that scene.
He's 7.
No, because he was Aegon. It was Aegon's last actor.
No.
No.
That's when the
Wait.
twins are trying to find Aegon because Viserys is dead, and they want to
Yes,
put him on
that's
the
true.
throne. Yeah, so they go into the fighting pits.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
talking about the girl that he assaulted that would have led to the kid.
No, but that was the old one as well. Oh no, it wasn't. That was the old actor.
That was the old actor that had the that was season 100%.
Yeah, so he's 7.
He would be something like that. Yeah.
She
Or
drank
he
the
was
moon
the
tea.
kid.
She
Or
drank
that was
moon
the
tea.
kid.
She drank
Wait,
the moon tea.
The moon
that
tea is
100%
not
effective?
scientifically proven for
Yeah.
100%.
That's yep, you're right. I stand
Anyway,
corrected.
I'm gonna rein us back in. I just like
You're
the
gonna
scene was
rein us
awesome.
back in?
Rhaena. This felt just
Sorry.
like a cheeky mother-son convo, which feels like so rare in this, especially think about last episode, which this conversation I also loved, but it was really one-sided. Why I loved it, Alicent just like ripping Aegon to shreds. It's, a mother with her eldest son. They could not be so starkly different. I loved that, and I'm just so Team Black. It's fucking insane.
Mhm.
Yeah, this
Me
was
too.
good. How it felt like a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
the two of them together while Jace it formulates the idea in its more foundational sense. Rhaenyra then adds in, there's records here that we can look through, and it's a mad thought. ... is the end of the episode, which I thought was a good way to end things here.
Yeah.
An
it really
interesting thing from the books, and this is why, in my opinion, as a book reader who was watching the show, it's probably pretty obvious at this point that I'm not like married to the book as like the Bible, where like everything needs to be word for word. I'm more than okay with changes being made. This scene itself and even this episode of Jace is why it's so interesting to think about the two of them together, where in the books Rhaenyra it's written essentially that she was still so overcome by grief with Luke's death that she wasn't doing anything. So all of these scenes with like emissaries being sent places, even last episode where Joffrey and the two younger Damon's sons and Rhaena being sent away, like that's portrayed as Jace's idea, where Jace is now like almost becoming the pseudo king in Rhaenyra's stead.
Yeah, he is.
Gone, Rhaenys is dead. And it's just interesting to think about where that's the way it found its way into the history books. But now the show is showing us that while yes, Jace was acting on his own in some ways, that Rhaenyra was also doing things. And it's just, I don't know. I like it's interesting to think about just because the way the book was written. So I enjoyed this rendition of it. It's probably a little over the top if it was. And again, you're not going to waste a fantastic actor like Emma to just have her be sad and actually it's Jace doing everything. So that was just, I thought, something that definitely caught my ear and eye when after the episode I read these pages, which this episode is like maybe 3 pages in the book.
Wow.
It's just all just Jace is doing these things. It's Jace's idea to send Joffrey away. It's Jace's idea to send Rhaena, or I'm sorry, to send Aegon and Viserys like across the narrow sea. It's just his idea, only his idea to have this have the Targaryen bloodline be researched and like put the call out like, hey, if you think you're Targaryen, all that type of stuff. So I just like the way this rendition was done, because again, this easily could have been the way it happened, but it just didn't find its way like that into the books. Because it seems to be that they took it from Mushroom's perspective, where Mushroom's like, she was so sad, I was the only one that could make her laugh and smile, and like you could even say that I was the one who was ruling the realm at this point because I had the queen's ear and all of this stuff. So I just thought that they did a pretty good job of the adaptation in that sense. They've obviously made mistakes, but for me, I'm enjoying it, man. I see a lot of people complaining on the internet, and I'm just glad that I'm not in that mind frame and in that perspective, because I think things have been pretty good. I think Rhaenyra and Alicent as characters have been a little difficult to adapt because they are creating a lot of this content and background ideas, and they're having to change them in ways, and some of them are necessary, some of them aren't necessary. I've already talked to you before about how they kind of seem flip-floppy, where they're not having this consistent motivation, and a lot of people were upset at one of Rhaenyra's lines here where she is talking about to Jace, where like, you need to be careful, like what happens if Aemon and Vhagar came upon you, like, and she talks about Luke in a way where it was maybe even Luke's fault that he like engaged with Vhagar, and where she wouldn't have known that. So like, like it just feels like people were saying that it doesn't feel consistent, her reaction to that and how she's dealing with the Luke stuff. And yeah, I can see it. And people are obviously frustrated over this idea of she's not really doing anything, but in the book, she doesn't really do anything. So I think at least they're making it this thing where it's this internal conflict. But now we're ending this episode and we have action. We have a plan.
Mhm.
There's something she can do. There's something she can impact. So I'm just excited to see how that moves forward.
And I would say the same thing is happening with Damon, like both their characters, but it's working for Rhaenyra. It's not working for Damon. It's just because they both don't have too much to do during this era. Do it the way that you're writing for Rhaenyra, not Damon. But that aside, let's MVP, LVP, and get the hell out of here. Okay, mine's are going to be super easy because I get to go first. Jace Strong Targaryen, baby. He is the best character. I love him, and he has a fan for life in me. Don't need to say anything else. LVP, I'm going to say Alice Waters for poisoning Damon's mind to make us watch him bang his mother. God damn it.
Also, isn't it technically Jace Strong Velaryon?
No, they mentioned that this was a specific point. Yeah, that Corlys asked Viserys if they would be Velaryons, and he said no.
Yeah, so Jace is a Targaryen, but Luke would have been
Targaryen.
Luke would have been a Velaryon, right? Because he wasn't the heir. Yeah.
I believe so.
Because they were going to pass on the Targaryen name. So yeah. But yeah, then Alice, just because I'm assuming she's the one poisoning Damon's mind, and that was a fucked up scene.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, now I get to go. I thought I was really like shoveling to find an LVP, but Damon LVP, of course.
Yeah.
For having the visions himself. MVP.
Fault.
Yeah, MVP Baela, so good. Again, really just excited for like the second gen of the Team Black to just be killing it for the rest of the episodes and next season as well.
Okay, my MVP is going to be Aemond. Aemond One Eye. I just love everything he did in this episode. I thought he's great in the council scene. I love the way that he's almost challenging people to call him out and say something about what happened with Aegon. That somewhat brushes off Helaena, although we didn't really see the end of that interaction. And then LVP. This is tough, but it's got to be Alicent. I mean, when you're going to stand up in that room and be like, it's obviously me, right? Like we can all agree, like it's a formality, right? Like it's going to be me. And then everyone's like, no, like, what? Yeah. I saw really funny memes on Twitter where it's like the Green Council explaining why Alicent can't be the protector of the realm or the region. And it's like Sheen from Jimmy Neutron, and he's just like, 1, she's a girl. 2, she's a girl. And 3, she's a girl. It's just like, that's literally exactly what happened. So unfortunate for her, but it got a chuckle out of me. So
good episode.
Yeah. All right. That's episode 5. Regent. We'll be back next week for episode 6, whatever they decide to name it. We'll be here for it and just doing like we do. So as always, we just want to thank everyone for listening, for engaging. If you want to engage more outside of just listening to us talk at you, you can talk with us either in the YouTube comments or in the Discord. You can complain with us. You can give us theories. We can send memes back and forth. So just stick with us if you like what you hear. And for the last time this episode, we are Bingetown TV. And thank you so much for listening.